Good morning, UCC.
Good morning.
Wow, full house, extra chatty Cathy's this morning, wouldn't you say, Pat?
I think so. I
I
think
felt like
so.
I felt like that
We're
teacher
gonna
who was
have to
just
rein
like
them in.
I felt like our teacher. I was just like, I'll wait. I'm just kidding. Hello, welcome to UCC. My name's Chris Petersmark. I'm the music director here. Hope you're all enjoying the wonderful warm weather. Always when it gets warmer, there's this smell of spring, but like sometimes it doesn't smell the best because we're not used to it after the cold, harsh winter. Can't tell if it's like mulch or it's tree. I don't know what I'm smelling, but it's like at least it's warmer. Good news for me, my post-op is tomorrow, so I'm hoping to get some news about my hand right here. But again, shout out to Bronson, hand and elbow specialists. They're the real heroes. They're doing awesome work over there. So yeah, we're going to start this wonderful Sunday morning off with hymn 121, We'll Build a Land, followed by Lean on Me. We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and we'll give them garlands instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land of people so born. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come build a land where the mantles of praises resound from the spirits once faint and once weak, where like oaks of righteousness stand her people. Oh, we'll build a land, my people we seek. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. And peace like an ever-flowing stream. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride if I have things you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let show. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road. I'll share your load. If you just call me, lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. And just call on your brother when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'd understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on.
Morning. Good morning, and welcome to UUCC. My name is Pat Fuhr, and I'm very happy to be your lay leader. Welcome to those of you in the sanctuary, to those who are at home joining us via Zoom or Facebook. And a special welcome to our visitors this morning. Are you curious about our UU faith? Well, we encourage your questions. We have literature in the entrance and in the community room. And please stick around for coffee and conversation after the service. For those of you on Facebook and Zoom, we invite and encourage you to attend the Zoom coffee hour following the service. And you can find the link to the coffee hour in the comments section of this video. Images of the congregation may be shared on Facebook and YouTube. And if you don't wish to be seen on social media, you can take a seat at one of the tables at the back of the sanctuary. Please refrain from talking while we are live, as the house microphones may pick up your conversation and broadcast it to the wider community. And switching your cell phones to airplane mode or turning them off avoids our streaming disruptions. Our building is on Shaver Road in Portage, Michigan, on the ancestral lands of the Peoria and the Potawatomi people. We pay our respects to the elders, past, present, and emerging. We're the little brick church with the rainbow flag and the Black Lives Matter banner out front. We believe that love is love, and it is our responsibility to dismantle white supremacy and build a beloved community that benefits us all. We're a community on diverse spiritual journeys, and while our journeys are diverse, our community is compassionate, inclusive, and united by love. Our spiritual theme for this year is building the tree of life. And our consulting minister, the Rev Gy McCartney, is with us today with a message on interdependence and the Great Divide. To learn more about our church, including our programs for children and youth and other opportunities to connect with us during the week, visit our website, uucommunitychurch.org. And today is also Generosity Sunday, and donations will be collected to support the community homeworks. Special thanks to everyone who is helping to make this morning's service possible. Our musician Chris, our tech team, our coffee hosts, we have soup makers this morning too, RE helpers, and you, because it does take a village. Announcements for today. We hope you will join us on April 18th at 7 p.m. for our Earth Day themed Thoughtful Thursday, harnessing the power of native plants, healing nature in your own backyard. Our guest speaker, Mike Weiss, is owner of the Kalamazoo-based landscape company Drop Seed, Native Gardens and Ecological Restoration. Mike will guide us through the importance of native plants in enhancing the Earth's capacity to support both people and wildlife. The program will be hybrid. Mike will be at the sanctuary at UUCC on April 18th and would welcome an in-person audience. He may even bring plants for show and tell. If you need childcare, please contact the office so that we can make arrangements for a sitter. And you can also attend via Zoom as usual. Visit our website to register for the event. Our spiritual growth group is beginning an exploration of the book Extraordinary Leadership by Roberta M. Gilbert. This group will meet once a month on the fourth Wednesday at 7 p.m., both at UUCC and over Zoom, to explore systems thinking, unearth unconscious behaviors that no longer serve, and explore new ways of being in healthy relationships with others. If you would be interested in joining the small group, please get in touch with Rev Gy to reserve your spot. And now we will light the chalice. Every April, there is a National Day of No Silence. And this year, it was April 12th. Students go through the school day without speaking, ending the day with breaking the silence rallies to bring attention to ways their schools and communities can become more inclusive. Our chalice lighting begins with words from Linda Lee Franson, the Pride Flame. We light this flame for those who celebrate themselves, who fear, who hope, who persevere, who stand on the side of love for all. We light this flame for those who have been ridiculed, that they may find peace, for those who have fought to marry, that they may celebrate, for those who live in uncertainty in the world, that they may have hope. We light this flame to renew our commitment that no one shall ever again suffer for the right to love. We light this flame to celebrate our kaleidoscope of diversity, working, loving, and living on the side of love. And for this, we light this flame. So, in the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. Periodically, UU Community Church holds special Generosity Sundays collections to support local organizations that promote justice, equity, and inclusion in our community. During the month of April, we will be collecting donations for community homeworks. We're delighted to be joined this morning by Community Homeworks Executive Director Chris Pradle and their Fund Development Specialist Nancy Servos to hear more about the organization and the work that they do. Chris, Nancy?
Good evening, everyone. Great to see you. Again, I'm Chris Pradle, Executive Director of Community Homeworks. It's wonderful to be here today with with my family, who's joining us here, and thank you so much for making it so welcoming to us. I think it's only fitting after our songs. We heard a little bit about water flowing. We see a lot of that in my work with Community Homeworks, but we also need somebody to lean on, right? And so we are that for the community, and I'm really pleased to be here with Nancy Servos, who's our Fund Development Specialist as well. So Community Homeworks, just want to raise of hands. How many people in the room here and you can raise your hand, keep it up if you're able, have had something happen in the place that you live that has caused you stress in the last year? All right, yeah. Maybe it's the heat went out in the middle of winter and you're worried your pipes are going to freeze. Maybe it's a trickle leak that came from the roof that you thought wasn't going to cause any trouble. Maybe it was a toilet that overflowed, right? It is almost as sure as paying taxes and death that if you own a home or if you're in a place where you're living, that things will go wrong. The reality is that so many of us have the opportunity, if something goes wrong, that we have somebody to call. We have maybe some savings to tap into to help us. We maybe have a credit card. Maybe we can tap into a home equity line to do those repairs, or call somebody, a family or friend, for help. But at Community Homework, so many of the people we serve have nowhere to turn when these things that happen to you and to us occur. So Community Homeworks exists for two main reasons. It was founded in 2009, and it's here for critical home repair, so for health or safety issues in a home for homeowners. And then we also provide empowering education. So if it's not something that we can help somebody with, we want to empower that homeowner to learn how to do the home repairs or maintenance in their home too, and bless you. And so we exist mainly for those two prime reasons. And so this is an integral part to the housing crisis. And oftentimes when I'm doing these presentations, I'll put a picture of a boat that's sinking on the screen. And there's a lot of great organizations, and we need these organizations that are helping to empty the buckets of water out of that boat as it's sinking, right? But we are an organization that's plugging that hole. Because the reality is in a housing crisis, if there's hundreds, if not thousands of people who are losing the homes they want to stay in, then it's going to be even harder for the people who are struggling to find a place to live. We are a homelessness prevention strategy. So many of the homes that we serve, that is the alternative, either temporary or permanent displacement. I think very, very often of a mother with two children who was homeless in her own driveway because her house had been condemned. Now think about that for a second. In the city of Kalamazoo, a person is homeless in their driveway, right? Living in their car. So this work is so critically important to our community. I'm so proud of the work that we're doing, and it's making a significant difference in the lives of people we serve. Beyond that, you think to yourself about, where should home be? Home should be the place that we kick up our feet and we can feel relaxed and chill. But for so many of the families that we serve who are already going through so much and have so many challenges that they're facing in their lives, home is the place that's causing them some of the greatest stress and grief. And I cannot tell you the look on people's face when we walk out of that home and we finally taken care of that issue, and you can just see the weight just alleviate off that person's shoulders, that family's shoulders, the impact it has on sometimes multiple generations that are living in the home, including kids. So I really appreciate the chance to be here. I'm going to hand it over to Nancy here for a second, who's going to share two somewhat recent stories of households that we served. So thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Good morning. And excuse me, like all of you, the drive-in was beautiful, so I appreciate being here. I came from the Winchell neighborhood and up Oakland Drive, and it's definitely springtime, so that's really good news. Yeah, a couple stories. I feel that there's a lot of power in stories, and we can relate to each other through our stories. And as you raised your hand saying that something is happening in all of your homes and all of your lives in the past year, that's what we find with our participants. And so I want to give you just a couple of examples of stories that we ran into just fairly recently. One is a middle-aged, maybe young middle-aged mom. I don't know how we define that, but she is a mom, she's a wife, and she's a homeowner in our neighborhood, actually, and a nursing student. So she was studying hard for nursing school, and she had a bad roofing job completed. They needed a new roof. She was able to get that somehow, but she heard at work that when they were finished, "Oh, we took down your chimney." And she's thinking to herself, thankfully, she thought to herself, my hot water heater vents through that chimney. And so she says, that's not okay. And so she called us and she said, I have a hot water heater that has no place to vent. And we knew that's a code red for us. So we brought our teams out to her house and realized, sure enough, she, without having called us, she could have lost her entire family because of the ventilation and the carbon monoxide in the home. And so we quickly went to work. That was a very acute need. And we gave her a new hot water heater that vented in a different way so it was safe. And that's the key thing that we do. We don't go in and make homes pretty, we make them safe. And so we could leave that home knowing that she, her husband, and her kids were safe. What I didn't come into this whole picture until the very end. And at the very end, I said, what did that feel like? She said, Nancy, you have no idea. She said, if this was Christmas time without hot water and teenagers, she says, I would have went the entire winter as a nursing student without hot water and teenagers. That would not have been good. And so she was extremely grateful. She is now a graduate of nursing school. She is gainfully employed as a nurse that's specializing in cardiovascular care. So that was a kind of a lean on me situation that I'm just thrilled for her, and I can't wait to catch up with her and see how her job is going. Another story that I can kind of relate to as a Nana is one of an older lady. I called her a senior citizen, and she corrected me. She goes, I'm not a senior citizen, I'm a seasoned citizen. So I said, okay, let's do that. And she lived in a house for 30 years, and there was a lot going on with her house that was just getting overwhelming for her, a woman that lives on a fixed income. And she came to us and kind of gave us the list of the high priority items. And she said, I've lived in that house for 30 years. Now, the average age of the houses we work on is close to 100 years old. So you can imagine what can go wrong with a 95-year-old home. So in her case, we went in, we assessed some of the huge safety needs. We fixed them, and again, I came in after it was all over with, and I said, what was that like? And she said, well, that's the home I've had for 30 years, and I raised my kids in. And I says, oh, wow. And she says, and that's not the end of it. And I says, well, what's the end of it? And she says, well, the end of it is that when I was a little girl, I used to visit this house. And I said, how did that happen? She goes, it was my aunt's house. So this is a house that had been in her family forever almost. And so I just left that conversation thinking, that's a house that means a whole lot. It's more than the walls, it's more than the ceiling. That's where her heart is. And today she now takes care of her grandchildren in that house. So it's a multi-generational house that she can live safely in. When I talked to her, she said, before you guys came, I was afraid to go to sleep because the walls would get hot, and I was afraid of the electrical. I feel so much safer now. And she's one of our dear, dear friends who will come in and just visit us. So anyway, that's just two of dozens and dozens and dozens of examples of the people that lean on us. And we just work together just to be part of their community. So anyway, just wanted to share those with you this morning. Thank you.
So you heard a couple of these stories as well, and in terms of the impact, I'm sure a question many people ask is, how many people are you serving? How broadly are you doing this work as well in our community? So last year we served 233 households. And again, about 40% of those were households with young children in the home. Next time you're driving through a typical neighborhood, just do some of the quick math as you're zooming by and think to yourself how many homes it takes to drive by 233 homes. And imagine if every year 233 homes went offline in our community, what kind of an impact it would not only have on community and neighborhoods, but families and individuals. We really appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today. Hope you learned a little bit more about community homeworks. I left some information in the back table there. One of the best compliments you can pay to us is if you know of somebody or another group that we can come speak to, we'd be honored to do that and spread the word about the work that we're doing. So thank you so much. Happy Sunday, and thanks for the opportunity to be here.
Well, thank you, Chris and Nancy, for your stories. And so I hope now you can open up your hearts and open up your pocketbooks to support the good work that they do in our community. We give to remind ourselves how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe that we can transform this hurting world. We give with the faith that together we have enough. And if you would like to contribute to our special offering for Community Homeworks, there are a few ways to give. You can place a check made out to UUCC with Generosity Sunday in the memo in the offering basket anytime in April. You can also mail your check to our building anytime in April. If you prefer to use a debit or a credit card, you can give online using the church website or the Vanco app on your phone. And be sure to choose Generosity Sunday in the menu. And if you prefer to give cash, we will be donating all cash and loose change in the offering plate today to Community Homeworks. So we'll let the ushers pass the plate. Our reading this morning is from Marcus Liefert, and it's entitled The Grout. And while I was looking for a reading this morning, I came across this, and I was reminded of the Sunday that we spent several years ago, young and old, working together at tables here in the sanctuary. We used our imaginations, pieces of wallpaper, magazines, and colored paper to create our triptych. So the grout. The Unitarian Universalist congregation, when I served as an intern, made a mosaic tree of life the summer before I arrived. Congregants of all ages came together to craft the tree's leaves, using bits and pieces of broken ceramics, jewelry, glass, and stone. There are many precious items in the tree. Like the members of the community that brought them, each part was imbued with memories and meaning. Each fragment holds a piece of truth. Unitarian Universalists are mosaic makers. We are people who bring together the broken pieces of our histories and the shining pieces of our seeking, and piece by piece create a mosaic religion. Our tree of life is found in stories of our living tradition. The bead from a transformational moment of worship at a youth conference. A bit of paper that was stamped with a blazing emblem of the Unitarian Service Committee that saved lives during World War II. The button or the patch on a backpack that proudly proclaims the first justice issue that lit our souls on fire. But our mosaic making tells another story too, one that is often more difficult to see. one that is essential to the purpose of religious community, one that lies not in the beautiful and broken bits and pieces, but in the grout. Grout, the chalky, gritty stuff that is squeezed between the cracks of tiles. In a mosaic, the grout holds the image together, unifying disparate pieces into a whole. The grout of community takes years to lay and settle. Grout happens in board meetings, committee meetings, endless emails, and slow-moving institutions. It is in potlucks shared by neighbors, a ride to church, and coffee in the social hall after worship. While the folks who show up for church only on Christmas and Easter will hopefully enjoy the beauty of the mosaic they find, they may never know the power of the grout that holds us through all the seasons of life. We help to make the grout when we learn each other's names and when we reach out across generational divides. We help to make the grout when we show up on Sunday morning without having checked first to see if we're interested in the sermon topic. When a child arrives to be blessed by the community, it is the grout that enables us to welcome them. And it is in the grout that we rest when we gather to grieve and memorialize a beloved one who has died. Hold us, O grout. Gather us in through time and space, and make all our broken pieces whole in community. In our multiplicity, make us one. From each of our jagged edges, give us the shape of a communal beauty.
I feel complete. Amen, amen. Let's go home. I think Chris and Nancy did a good job. Pat, no one can outdo that. So good morning and welcome. I'm Rev Gy, delighted to be here. Thank you for sharing this time with us. You're right, the weather is so beautiful. You could be doing a million different things in your backyard, in your garden, and here you are instead because of that grout, because you care, because this is the community you've chosen, or this is the community you're checking out. And maybe you're checking us out online, or you attend online on a regular basis, so I welcome you too as well. I am extremely tired. I'm very, very tired because we have this beloved dog of ours who's at least 16 years old. And he's a big boy. He's a pit bull lab mix, a faultless dog. This dog has been nothing but wonderful his entire life. And he's, tomorrow we're calling the vet. They'll come to the house. And he's a wonderful boy, but you would think that his body has failed already so much that he can't fail anymore, and then each morning is worse. And this morning, he was just walking in circles, left side. I don't know what happened in there. But he can't go outside anymore. He falls, he can't get up. So we have to be there with him all the time and then pick him up and restore as much dignity and possibility to his days as we can. And our decision was, he's always been a very enthusiastic eater. So we said that when that goes, it's time. Because his body has been failing him now for quite some time. And so today he refused breakfast, and we'll see about dinner, but either way, we need to make the call because this is no longer kind. But I've been up all night, so I'm just buzzing with tiredness. I don't know if you've ever been that tired. I was up with him. And then he goes outside, he walks out there, middle of the night, and then kind of gets lost in thought and just stands there and slowly starts falling to the ground, and then gotta go pick him up. And that's how it was. So, he's a boy who, this is what his life is about now. He used to be full of life, and he was so fast and loved to run. And we take him to the dog park, and one of his favorite things was to rile up the other dogs in there and have them chase him. And he'd be just running away and then zigzagging. That's what his life was then about. Then, as he matured more and more, he started slowing down a little bit, but still always loved chasing the ball, eating. And as the seasons of his life changed, so did his needs. Because this is what happens. It happens to him, and then it happens to us. It's just the way of it. And as his needs changed, we needed to adjust our care to him. And again, that's what it takes when we live together. We assess where we are at each moment in time, and then if we pay attention, we can make adjustments. If we don't pay attention, we're going to miss the signs. If we don't care, we're definitely going to miss the signs, and we won't be willing to make the adjustments, and we might even deny that adjustments have ever been needed, because there's no caring. And that's what society is like. That's the layout of society. There are those who pay attention. There are those who don't. There are those who don't care. There are those who care too much and can't take it and end up checking out because it hurts so much to witness the not caring of others. The generations. Each generation grows up during different needs. So caring for each generation looks different. The caring of each generation looks different. Caring for, and then the caring of the generation looks different. Now I'm going to read a quote to you, and you will guess who I'm quoting, okay? The children now love luxury. They have bad manners, contempt for authority. They show disrespect for elders and love chatter in place of exercise. Children now are tyrants. Who that? Yes. Anybody else? Yes? There you go. It was Socrates. Yeah, you were close, very, very close. Joel takes the... that's the thing. That the new generation comes in, and it's different than us. And we sit in judgment. We could also just sit in assessment. We could sit in paying attention, and in understanding, and in compassion, and curiosity. Why are they different? What has changed? How is it that I am like this and my offspring is like that? How could that be? And then also, my second offspring is different from that. That's even more different. And I can't even speak of the third one. What's happening here? So, a lot of dynamics. Within families, there is the systems that are at place. So no child is born into the same family, okay? Because the firstborn is born to parents who have never had children before. They weigh that child every day. They coddle it. They weigh the poop. They look at the color. They call the doctor. Today it's different. By the time the third child calls, it's like, let the first kid take care, whatever. It's how it is. My parents never ever showed up for the teacher-student meetings. Like with me, with the first one, all the time. With the second one, with my middle sister, almost all the time. With me, absolutely never. It's just like, whatever, it doesn't matter. And so no child is born into the same family. So obviously, children won't be the same because the systems have shifted. The second child is born into a family that's already had one, so it's no big deal, but they also have an older sister to either terrorize them or help them, depending, right? You guys know how that goes. And then the third child, this one, has 4 people to tell them what she thinks. All the time. So, you know, the systems change, and that's something we will talk about in that class that I'm going to offer. So if you're interested, come, because you will learn much about yourself, you will learn much about systems, you will learn much about generations. It's a very, very good course. So that's within family. But generations are different too. Just think about this. And also, what you need to remember, that though we feel very unique, it's all cyclical. It's very interesting how we just reproduce the same cycles over and over, but they're far apart from each other, a long lifetime away from each other, enough that we don't remember. We no longer have personal memory of what that feels like. And I tell you how strange that is. I grew up in communism. My sisters have children, right, who are just not so much younger than I am, but they have no experience of communism. And I just see how very differently they view life. They have no idea what it feels like to be in an authoritarian regime. So for them, when an authoritarian regime comes in, they don't recognize it. I see it right away. They live in Hungary. Orban is the president there, who's a total authoritarian. And they don't necessarily recognize it. And then when they recognize it, they don't understand what it means to give up rights. That once you gave up a right, how extremely difficult and often bloody it is to get it back. Never give up rights. Never give up rights. Like, that is a solid belief that I hold. Never, ever give up any right, because getting it back may take generations and a lot of bloodshed. Don't do it. So fight for it while you have it. Anyway, generations. Think about this, okay? There's a cycle with the generations. There's like spring, summer, fall, and winter. And the spring generation usually follows a crisis. And this generation comes together and they do great things. Think of the greatest generation. They went in their youth, fought a world war, the Second World War. They came home and they built and strengthened institutions. They rolled up their sleeves. They were doers. Think of all the institutions, you know, the 3- and 4-letter institutions that they created. The Social Security, the FHA, the many, many institutions that they created. Because they lived through a terrible crisis, and that shaped them. And they were the never again generation. We will not let that happen. We will put safety checks in place to make sure that this can never happen again. We will form NATO. We will make sure that there will never be a third world war. The second one nearly wiped us out. NATO will be there to protect us. Clearly, there is still a conflict in the world, but we are creating safety checks. They are the doers. So you would think that they would give birth to a generation who then are already imbued with all the knowing, with the experiences that these parents have been through. And then the next generation will just want to further strengthen the institutions and create even more safety checks. And instead, the boomers came. And Woodstock. And the doers gave birth to a generation of awakeners. So these are people who search for spiritual dimension, answers of a different dimension. They're not crazy about all the sacrifice and all the doing. They want to enjoy. They want to live in luxury. They want to, they have bad manners. They have contempt for authority. And then they are the generation now, you would think, if they are such spiritual seekers and they care a lot about relationships with each other, that they would give birth to a generation who would be even more awakened and who would really strengthen relationships with one another and would work for harmony and peace in the world. After all, I mean, love is in the air and it's connection. And instead, they give birth to the Generation X, who are very individualistic, materialistic. If I got it, then it's good. Because think about it. This is the Generation X is also called the lost generation. They are the kids that their parents took pills so they wouldn't have them. This is the first generation where this is happening. They are the kids who are thrown in the back of the car, seat belt, and we go on rides, and who cares if they fly out of the car? They'll be fine. We'll put them out to play. Let them go. Get on their bikes. They'll be back for dinner. That's Generation X. So you would think that Generation X now, who is very individualistic and who materialistic and who is very rooted in a sense of self, would give birth to a generation that is even more secure, even more confident, knows even better what they want and how the world should look like. And instead, they give birth to the millennials. And the millennials are group thinkers. They are team workers. They are very good at communication. This is a generation that the Xers decided we're not going to raise them like we were raised. Instead, they dote on them. So the helicopter parents, they become these parents who are very involved in their children's lives. And their children become less confident, less individualistic, more group thinkers. And you see what I'm saying? You see how that goes? Like what you think should happen doesn't happen. It's strange, right? But then there's another aspect of these generations. The spring, the summer, the fall, and the winter. These cycles. So if the greatest generation lived in the spring, created the spring of this country, where institutions were strengthened, created and strengthened, Then comes summer. And these are people who think that institutions are overrated. So they don't take care of them quite so much. Also, there's another reason why they don't take care of them. Because they are there and they are working. And do we have a saying, don't fix anything that's not broken? So they may not be complete. They may not encompass everything, but they are there and they are working. So then you don't pay attention to that which you have. And instead, you rebel against it. And then some things you undo. Some things you just don't take care of. And then comes the next generation who realizes that we are actually worse off than the generations before us. Did you know that the latest Gallup poll, they do this happiness of the countries, you know, who are the happiest countries on earth? And it's the Scandinavian countries. So Finland is number one, then Denmark, Sweden, all the high taxpayers, by the way. For the first time, the US has slid below 20. So for the first time. Up till now, we were always in the top 20. We're now 24. But the other interesting thing is that the 60-plus generations report a higher level of happiness than the 30 and under. What does that tell you? That institutions are eroding, that the planet is in trouble, and this generation is feeling extremely insecure and threatened. Now, do you see then how, if you're dealing with circumstances that are different, how the actions we take must also be different? So now you understand why is it that different generations have different needs. They want to meet them, they want them to be met differently. And then other generations who have other needs want to meet these needs, want to meet these needs the way they know how their needs need to be met. Get it? It's complicated. So we don't hear each other, we don't see each other. I don't remember who said this, that we don't see things and people the way they are, we see them as we are. We are the point of reference at all time. And then there's conflict within the generations. Now, the smart ones, the people who study these cycles say that we are now again in winter, as cycles go, in winter. Remember what precedes spring? Crisis. So the greatest generation's crisis was the Second World War. In the winter, the political systems, there's a shift in them. There's a reorganization. There has always been, through these cycles that this country has had, there was always a reorganization of the political systems. Do we see signs of that? According to the smart ones, supposedly we are halfway into this winter, certainly not on our way out. We don't know what spring is going to look like. But usually in the spring, people come together and people start rebuilding, people start forming communities again, and then we fall apart again, and so it goes. I certainly don't know if it's possible to break these cycles. But I'd be curious to try. I'd also be interested to try because, well, it informs and it shapes human history. So let me give you a little example. In this church, we brought up the name change. There were some of us who felt strongly that our name should be changed. There were some of us who felt strongly that our name shouldn't be changed. And there were those who felt strongly both ways. And what informs our strong feelings? You know, we were singing these songs today, and I was reading the words to the first song, and I wonder when that was written. To me, that feels like maybe it was at a time like the greatest generation. We'll come together, we'll build a place, you know, that will serve us all. This is where we're going to work towards peace for all. And then the second song, Lean on Me, I'm guessing probably a boomer, you know. We write different songs. So I think the most important thing is to talk and to listen to one another. I think we should sit down with these younger people who are coming to our community and ask, what do you need? We created this. We built this. This has served our needs. It's still serving our needs. But we want to serve your needs as well. What are they? And then when they tell us, let's take them seriously and let's adjust. So it's not constant push and pull, but there is the possibility of melding and coming together where both ends are possible. Both ends. Where my opinion doesn't need to be so important. Because I understand that my opinion is rooted in my particular upbringing, in my particular life experience, and I really shouldn't think that it should trump everybody else's needs. Because if I do, then there's conflict. Then we'll stick it to each other. Then we'll work in spite of each other. But if we would sit down with these younger people and ask, what do you want? What do you think? And then adjust. So we don't care for them the way we need to be cared for. Get it? But we care for them the way they need to be cared for. And who are the best ones to tell us? They are. Now we know what they should want, what they should need. And that's the problem. That's the problem. Just like our parents knew for us, and what we know about them, we know about what they should know. But we need to change that. We need to change that because globally, we're in the winter. And did you know that these 20, 30-some-year-olds actually don't think that democracy is that important? They really don't. They're looking around and say, well, what has democracy brought us? A broken planet, a bunch of broken institutions, nothing's getting done. Look at the boomers in Congress. I mean, they are the ones now shaping the political landscape, the boomers. Look what that looks like. They can't find their way out of a paper bag, let alone pass policies. So they think democracy is not all that is made out to be. It's much easier and faster to change a system when one person is in charge. And there's always a person who's willing to be in charge. And that's a problem. That's a problem because when you give up rights, it is very difficult. It often takes generations and a lot of bloodshed to get it back. So I think, personally, that we should double down on democracy while listening to the needs of the new generations that are coming and meeting those needs. And I don't know how to do that. I know how to do that in my family. Well, I think I know. Well, okay, so I'm willing to do that in my family. I'm certainly willing to do that in this community. But I think we should come together and see how can we do that in the larger community, and then keep affecting the larger and larger and larger community, because we are in a winter cycle. And this winter cycle, in the past, has always ended in a very terrible war. The Civil War, the World Wars. It's always ended that way. Napoleonic War, that was a winter cycle as well. So, we're in that cycle. And we should mitigate. We should care. We should care anyway. But being in a winter cycle, we should really, really care. So, I don't want to scare you. That's not my point. My point is to inspire you to listen. My point is to inspire you to act, to reach outside of your comfort zone to younger generations and start working together. Because I think if we do that, we can mitigate this cycle. If we don't do that, my guess is we will recycle the cycle. And then there will be a spring generation. We don't know what that's going to look like. They're probably going to come together because they have lived through the big tragedy of this winter cycle. And for a while they'll come together, and for a while they'll build together. And then if we've learned no lessons, we keep repeating the same cycles. Well, I'd like to interrupt the cycle. So, it is really hope and possibility I want us to walk out of here with today. Hope and possibility that begins here with an openness and the willingness to put this one a little bit on the back burner and take that generation and put them on the front burner. So there can be life and possibility and just a different future. And so it is. Thank you.
Oh boy, that's a lot to wrap your head around. And I'm sure the conversation will continue. May we keep the flame of love awake and alive in our souls, and let the light of the chalice bind us together, showing us the way. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
So be an interrupter. Be open-minded. Be willing. Listen. And change this world. And so it is.